It's an arrogance and it's confrontational. And really, do you think that brings people more likely to talk with him when he says, "I'm going to do it whether you like it or not"?
All right, let's take a trip down memory lane. We have a month.
No, it doesn't.
Then candidate Obama railing against then President George W. Bush over the use of executive orders. And will these words come back to haunt him?
This is what Obama believed and said.
There's been a tendency on the part of this administration to try to hide behind executive privilege every time there's something a little shaky that's taking place. And I think the administration would be best served by coming clean on this. It's not actually true that the Patriot Act was the worst. Most of the problems that we have had in civil liberties were not done through the Patriot Act. They were done through executive order by George W. Bush. And I think one of the biggest problems of the last 8 years has been the degree to which President Bush has taken almost the opposite tack, that secrecy and concentrations of power in the Oval Office. I taught the Constitution for 10 years. I believe in the Constitution and I will obey the Constitution of the United States. We're not going to use signing statements as a way of doing an end run around Congress.
Lie.
All right? Congress. All right?
All right. Here's what happened. You guys got to check this out. This is not a lie. It's true. Check it out.
List. Obamacare? Did he do an end run around Congress?
He's right. He doesn't use signing statements. You know how he granted a waiver to big business? Through a blog post by an assistant Treasury Secretary. It's just openly defying the law. The Constitution puts on the president a responsibility to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And Sean, it is striking. Two people that are absent from this, two players. Number one, Congress. Congress should be defending.
Number two, the courts.
Prerogatives. When the president said he will act if Congress doesn't act, just about every Democrat in the chamber jumped to their feet applauding. It is extraordinary.
The Congress applauded itself.
Abdicating their role under the Constitution to protect our liberties.
Have a role in what happened.
When the president said he will act if Congress doesn't act, just about every Democrat in the chamber jumped to their feet applauding. Where is the media?
All right, here it is.
Enforcing immigration law. Dictated a second one, recess appointments. I thought those were supposed to be made when the Senate was in recess.
He's going to be rebuked on that. The appellate court has already rebuked him. It's going to go, the arguments have been heard at the Supreme Court. He's going to be rebuked on that. The appellate court has already rebuked him. It's going to go, the arguments have been heard at the Supreme Court. But it's one thing after another. And Ted's exactly right. It's initiation of war on its own. It's amending legislation on its own. It's writing legislation on its own. Montesquieu talked about the separation of powers, and that's where we got some of the ideas for our founding documents. And he said when the executive assumes or usurps the legislative authority, when the president attempts to write laws, that's a form of tyranny that we need to fear. And he said when the executive assumes or usurps the legislative authority, when the president attempts to write laws, that's a form of tyranny that we need to fear. But I think there's also the hypocrisy. American public doesn't like hypocrisy. Here he was ranting and raving, it's all Bush's fault and Bush was so terrible, and then he's taking all of those things and gone one extra step. The American public doesn't like hypocrisy. Here he was ranting and raving, it's all Bush's fault and Bush was so terrible, and then he's taking all of those things and gone one extra step and created himself his own little kingdom here. And but
that's illegal.